there was an article that came out this past week. I actually didn't see this, but Dominic, thankfully, must have a better pulse on the MMA Twitter sphere and saw that there was an article. So an article came out from MMA Junkie. It was essentially announcing that the June 25th, isn't that the June 25th main event is going to be the previously announced Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot fight. Much to the surprise, I think, of the majority of fans. You know, these two guys, great prospects, a lot of potential, riding on big winning streaks. But both of them making their first headlining spot here.
And they're doing it together.
They're doing it together. They're not huge names. They're lower ranked in the division. So a lot of people surprised by this. A journalist by the name of Shaquille Majori, who me and Dominic are both big fans of. I really like his work. He does a little bit of pro wrestling too, which he's also good at. He shared this article, and his infamous the quote from the tweet is, and we kind of tweaked it for our question here, Dom, just because I think me and you would be so adamantly against what he said.
Right.
That I'm trying to tweak it to make it somewhat of a yes or no, debate here. When it comes to star power, is Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot one of the worst main events on paper in UFC history?
Yeah.
So the question was more direct. It was not one of. It was just, is it the worst? And not on paper, just in UFC history, blah, blah, blah. So, Dominic, your thoughts on this question, and maybe you can, I don't know how you want to do this. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about kind of the discussion that went on with Shaquille and maybe your thoughts on his viewpoints, but just run wild, brother.
Yeah, so I saw this earlier. He posted it on the 26th, so I guess it was relatively early on in the week, or like middle of the week. And I knew it was going to get, this was the type of question posed that's going to get MMA, especially like there's people on MMA Twitter, they're going to get riled up. It's a big community. There's a lot of people on there that are very passionate about the sport. Some are trolls, yes, but a lot are like knowledgeable, like very hardcore fans at least. So this is a great question that he posed that he knew going in when he typed this that he was going to get people going, and he got me going initially. Like I made knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, this is insane. What are we doing? Shaquille, come on. I like following your work. He does great interviews, by the way, for those that don't know. It kind of has a different spin on the way he does them. And I'm like, I think having this type of question with the names of these fighters involved on like on paper, when you look at this tweet, it's immediately like, if people that aren't hardcore like us two, like Shaquille, like people that were responding to this, if they see this, they're going to think, well, if he's asking this, why am I even going to bother tuning in on June 25th? If that's the case, if it's that bad that you have to ask these people. But I get it. He said it because he wants, name value. They aren't huge names to the common fan, but fight nights aren't pay-per-views. You're not paying $75, $80, I don't even $100. They're expensive as shit these days to watch these two fight. Yes, you got to have the ESPN Plus subscription, but like, to me, these are the types of fights that fight night headliners need to transition more into. These are guys that are the new wave. Now we're talking about 155 pounds, the most competitive stack division in the UFC that we've had in the past few years. But the guys that we're so used to, the Poiriers, the Fergusons, the Hookers, the Rafael dos Anjos, they got to leave eventually. Like, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Noah's already said it. The passing of the torch, if you will, of a whole division. It happens. Those guys have to fizzle out. These are the new wave of that division, the future title contenders, the future champions. You have Rafael Fiziev, you have Tsarukyan, Gamrot, the Joel Alvarez's, the Brad Rydell's, the Jalen Turners. They're coming. Their time is coming. This is number 11 versus number 12 in the division. If they win, if they make a statement in the main event of a fight night, people are going to know their name going forward. If they're just going to keep being hidden down on the bottom of cards, yeah, eventually they'll come out. Eventually they'll headline a fight night. But if you're the UFC and you're trying to fill spots, why not get ahead of the curve and give guys like this the opportunity earlier on in their careers while they're still top 15 fighters to make a name sooner than what others can do. I think we've discussed this time and time again, and I'm going to let you say your piece. But fights like this are better headliners than what we're getting on, say, June 4th with Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, when we've already seen them kind of do all that needs to be done.
That was very well said, Dom. Very well spoken. Yeah, I don't want to piggyback too many of your points there because I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I do think a lot of the backlash against Shaquille was a little much. I mean,
It got a bit,
he's just asking a question, trying to. I don't think he was saying this because he necessarily believes that.
Right.
But I mean, we were all surprised this was made a main event. I mean, let's be honest. We were all surprised. And again, that's not to say that surprise means we're against it. No, we support it.
We were surprised in a good way.
We were surprised because it's not very typical of the UFC to do this.
Yeah.
So I think there is a discussion to be had on well, why is that surprising? Is it?
Yeah.
It's got to be for a reason, right? Well, it's because these guys are lower ranked in their weight class. They're never been headliners before, and they're both unproven for the most part. Now, I think this is a beautiful main event. I want so badly Fight Night main events to feel more often like this.
Yes.
Less Holly Holm, Ketlin Vieira, less Rozenstruik. I mean, the Holly Holm, I kind of get that one. But okay, Volkov Rozenstruik. If you put Gamrot Tsarukyan on that card on June 4th, I want that to be the headliner over Volkov Rozenstruik.
Yep.
It's because these main events, I understand you put a main event in place because it's what's the most financially fluid,
lucrative,
what's the most lucrative fight to put in there? Who's the biggest name on the card? But with fight nights, I mean, the UFC has put themselves in a very good position with their ESPN deal where as long as they put on the events each year, it doesn't matter. As long as they put on the events, they're getting the same amount of money. It doesn't matter if the viewership is 500,000 or 250,000. And I don't think that's the kind of differences we're talking about here. I don't think a Rozenstruik Volkov main event is any. I mean, it might be a smidge, but I think at the percentage viewership higher than what you get with a Tsarukyan, a Gamrot main event. I think it's so small that it shouldn't even be considered. Are we really going to start pegging Volkov Rozenstruik as stars? No, they're not.
Right.
That's why I think where Shaquille is kind of, I don't want to say he's gone wrong because he's just asking a question and people just kind of
they take it out of context almost.
I think it's less. I don't know if they take it out of context. I think they just assume that he's asking it because that's what he thinks. Because nobody was really asking that question. He was. He's the one that brought that to the fold. And I think people don't want that to be a part of the discussion about this fight. You use that for Aspen Ladd, Norma Dumont. That's where that question comes out for.
Yeah.
A fight that nobody really cares about, that nobody's excited for. Here, we want to remain positive about this fight. Get it some positive, so that the casual fans that might start hearing the buzz might feel like they need to tune in, even though they haven't heard of these guys. They're like, "Oh, my buddy told me these guys are legit, and whoever wants this could be the future title holder."
Yeah.
So, I think in that way, that's not really Shaquille's job. I mean, it's not his job to do marketing for the UFC, but I just think for me as a fan, I just don't think it's the right question to ask right now. With that being said, when it comes to star power, it probably is it's probably up there, but again, I don't think that really matters, right? I mean, is it wrong to say that it probably is one of the top 5 lowest star powered main events ever? I mean, it probably is, but
right.
I don't think that matters because I think the fight because again, I think the room for error, the percentage, I think the difference between this fight and again some of these main events that are so commonplace nowadays are so small. The percentage difference
Yes.
is so small, and you're in a weight class here that's the most intriguing in the whole company.
Yep.
Two guys that are basically leading the charge and taking over the top of this weight class. Um, this is what I want more main events to be because these main events should be there should be some things we're learning about people based on
Yes,
who wins,
exactly.
who loses. You know, you test these guys by giving them a main event spot. Um, you know, what lessons are learned by Volkov Rosenstrike, no matter what happens? I don't know if it really tells us anything.
Exactly.
And
We've seen them at the pinnacle outside of like a title fight. So
like
why
they've
does this
done,
deserve 5
yeah,
rounds?
like they've already been there, done that, and
Yeah.
honestly, their main event spots haven't exactly proved to be the most frugal ventures for them. So it's like,
Right.
you know, and with that kind of fight, just make that a co-main 3 round main event, but make this like a main event because there's actually a lot that can be learned from this fight. You know, the winner, man, I mean, they're about to catapult into the top 10.
Yeah.
They're a couple fights away from perhaps a title eliminator. The loser, depending on how they lose, do they slow down in the championship rounds or do they just get beat pillar to post or what
Yeah.
is it? There's a lot of lessons that can just be learned here, and um, I think it's a great main event. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
so happy that this is a main event.
The way that you broke down your mindset of these fight night main events a little while ago to me for the first time, and I've loved it ever since. And you already just went into it just now, but like that's the mindset people should share, especially like in the hardcore fan base. It's like if there's nothing that I can learn that I don't already know about these fighters, I don't need it to be a main event. Hey, you could make it a 3 round fight. You know, Volkov Rosenstruik, they haven't fought before. That's
Mm.
good. It's a good fight, but we don't need it to be a main event because we already know everything about these guys. Tsarukyan and Gamrot, while they've had great performances, they have great records. There's a whole lot we don't know about them still. And when we give them 5 rounds on a platform that they haven't had before, here it is. The world is your oyster, whoever wins this.
Yeah, and
Those are the types of fights that we need.
it doesn't always have to be, you know, both guys need, like, sometimes you do put not necessarily what happened with Ketlin Vera, Holly Holm, because I don't think we needed that fight, but like you could do Holly Holm, right? Someone who's a legitimate um, star, I guess, still, and you know we know how she performs in 5 round fights. We know how she performs like fight to fight, like you know she's solid. Um, but let's say you had someone rising through the ranks who had yet the main event.
Well, let's just
There you
take an
go.
example that's coming up. RDA versus Rafael Fazayev. There
It's a
you
great
go.
main event, an absolute banger of a main event. I mean,
Yes.
that's not just because the fight is great, but because RDA is still looking ahead for a potential title shot, and I think with the win against Fizayev, he may have earned himself a title eliminator fight.
Yeah.
But then you have Fizayev, who again has never been in a main event. He's been on a lot of great 3 round fights, but some of those he's slowed down towards
Yep.
the end. I think it's important to see how does he go over 5 rounds. How does he perform? It may not go 5 rounds, but why doesn't it go 5 rounds? Does he empty the gas tank trying to put RDA away early, and then RDA is able to kind of smother him before we even get to round 4, or does he put RDA away early and then that just raises his his bar even higher? So
Yes.
I just think there's so much you can learn from a fight like that that you don't get with the kind of main events we've gotten over the last few weeks. That's kind of been my gripe with some of these.
Yep.
I don't even care so much about the cards not being super stacked because I get it. These fight nights, they're gonna have a lot. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fights with new people making debuts and stuff, and they're not supposed to be pay per views.
Yeah.
But make the main event something interesting, something intriguing, something that will actually,
Storylines.
yeah, something that you can learn something from.
Yes.
Don't make it something boring and stagnant like what we've been getting these last couple weeks, in my opinion.
Yes. Fights like this right here in this, banner that you're seeing need to be more commonplace for the fight night main events.
Yeah. Last